Oyster Reefs, everyone loves them. It's fun tech to have. And we did adjust the text. So you'll see 20 acres across several sites for 2012. There's a theme here. And then 2,000 acres to 2050. And we have over 15 pilot sites, which we're going to talk a little bit about, for 1.38 acres. So but I think there's a lot to build off from what we've done. So one of the major things that happened was this oyster restoration and research project, and this had a ton of people working on it. In particular, the Army Corps, the Harbor and Estuary Program, the Harbor School, and Hudson River Foundation, and numerous other partners, as you can see there. And this was all done in New York waters. And what we did over the course of a couple of years was create pilot sites in 6 different areas, and you can see the map there to your right. And it involved a lot of volunteers and students, thanks to Pete. And we used the same type of structure at each of the sites to assess how they did. And there's other people here, including Jim Lodge, who can speak more fully on the science behind this. Oops, let me go back. So the idea with ORP, that's our nickname in the office, is that what did we learn from it? What did we learn from these pilot sites? And because of that work, there were 2 sites in particular that we've decided to move forward on. I would say through ORP. I want to say in Jamaica Bay.
Very tough.
Oh, thank you. I'm just going to stop doing that. So in Jamaica Bay, the New York City DEP is really taking the lead on that with John here. But we decided to move forward with expanding the Soundview Reef in the Bronx River. There's a science reef there, as well as a community reef. The Baykeeper is taking on the community reef, and that allows for us to have more of the volunteer interaction. Because you don't want to necessarily have volunteers on a reef where you're trying to also gather scientific data. And then the Harbor School, of course, has taken on Governor's Island, and they have done an amazing job with the Flupsy and their nursery in Wallabat Basin. And so those are the 3 sites that seem to be moving forward out of ORP. And that's based on what we learned, and a lot of that information is all over our website. So since I have the mic, I'm going to talk a lot about Baykeeper and how awesome we are, and what we're doing in New Jersey. So I don't know if many people know, Naval Weapons Station Earl is in Middletown. It's an active military pier that comes into Raritan Bay. It's 2 miles long. And we had quite a setback in New Jersey with the ban by the state to use oysters for restoration, research, and educational purposes in the summer of 2010, I believe. And so we had to take our reefs out. And so what we did is we worked hard with the Navy to see if they would be willing to have us come into their Homeland Security area, and they were. And so we did a survivorship study, we applied for permits, and DEP gave us permits for almost 11 acres of oyster restoration for 5 years. So it's a 5-year permit. So we're really excited about that, and it took a lot of negotiation back and forth with the state. So, and then Hurricane Sandy hit, and our aquaculture facility was destroyed in Highlands. So we have spent the time rebuilding the center at Earl, and then we also produce the juvenile oysters, and we use, for this project, we're going to recreate our Keyport Reef using reef balls. You can see our aquaculture tanks, again, set up at Earl, and we'll also be using some structures. Because it's such a high energy system, we were noticing that loose shell with the spat-on shell placed on top was really dissipating. So we're trying more of a structured approach. And this summer we'll be deploying the half-acre plot where we'll be testing these different structures. And then we just move on from there to make the reef within the 11 acres at Earl. And the other thing we've been doing in New Jersey in order to keep the community engaged and the conversation going when the ban was in place was ground truthing the CRIP. So we had these big goals in the CRIP, and they were done with maybe 4 parameters, right, looking at GIS. So we had volunteers walking the shoreline. This is the Raritan Bay shoreline. You can see the pier sticking out. That's where we didn't have the volunteers. obviously. And last summer we were able to go up and around Western Raritan Bay and the south shore of Staten Island. And the idea was to collect a lot of information and assess how many acres, given the quality of the site that we're looking at and the depth, because you really do. So I think it's just over 1,000 acres. We could do for oyster restoration based on on-the-ground data in Raritan Bay. And where our goal is to do this for the entire harbor, to just, again, ground truth what we're saying in the crypt. And, we still have some obstacles to implementing our tech, water quality in the harbor being the main one because of the bacterial levels, causes a lot of concern for folks like Steve about putting these tasty little morsels into the water and worrying about people taking them out. And we're still trying to work in New Jersey, obviously, to overcome the holistic ban that's in place on the use of oysters. But we do have the exciting news about We Build by Design that SCAPE will be implementing the living breakwaters. And I hope that that kind of takes the momentum forward to say that we can do a lot more with oysters, understand their ability to address storm surge and wave action, and that maybe we can be doing more throughout the harbor on resilience.